Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with your friends and get your gaming goodness every Saturday at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. I'm Dylan White, and joining me today on the couch, lonely couch, Ashley Hobley.
Wow, there's a lot of room on the couch this week.
Yeah, it's good.
Did we get
it's
a bigger couch? Or?
No, it's just the bigger people left.
The ones with the bigger egos, yeah.
That's right. That is 100% right. Now we're just left to fill up the space, and it's
the workmen.
It's very comfortable on the couch, but nonetheless, you know, more room for us and our opinions that never get to be heard throughout the week on any sorts of video games.
Yeah, we don't get heard enough each week.
No, I'm really happy that the rest of the Explosion Network finally gave you and me a chance to
talk video games. Yeah,
talk video games. We really do not get to do it enough. Just the two of us.
No,
Ashley,
absolutely not.
Check out Platinum Explosion every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. All right, on today's show, we will be talking about Kingdom Hearts. Obviously, the game is out. Shut the fuck up, Ash. Don't even say it. We're going to be talking about Anthem's demo, and we're going to be talking about Metroid getting pushed back to its original Prime developer, and we're going to be talking about Ash's recent addiction. But first, let's dive in to the news. Starting with Epic Games has landed another big hit to its continuing success of basically, fucking Steam left, right, and center, really, as they've picked up now Metro Exodus, the upcoming Metro game, the third in the series, will now be a timed...
Metro Exodus?
What did I say?
Exodus?
Yeah, you know why?
I have no idea.
Yu-Gi-Oh! That's why. I guarantee... I didn't even realize I said it, but I guarantee it's because of Exodia.
Okay.
Now, whenever I read Exodius, I just...
Exodus.
Exodus, I say Exodius, because Exodia. Got to go the left, the right, the body and the head, stick it all together, and you summon. It's time to duel. You didn't expect that when you came into today's episode.
No, I didn't.
Metro Exodus, the third entry into the long-running Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, will now be a timed exclusive on the storefront. And physical copies of PC games, which is still a thing apparently. I had no idea that was still a thing, but apparently it is, will no longer contain Steam codes. So this news was kind of announced and then was followed up with THQ Nordic sending out a bunch of tweets to kind of clarify what the go is with all of this. And they said, quote, the decision to publish Metro Exodus as a timed Epic Store exclusive was made entirely by, is it Koch? I'm sure it's Koch.
Coke.
Koch Media.
Coke.
Okay.
Yeah, Coke.
Coke, sure.
You know, like
Coke?
the Koch brothers.
Okay.
American politics.
Media's side as Metro as the intellectual property. Because they own THQ, but among a bunch of other companies. So this was outside of THQ's hands. This was outside the developer of Metro, which I'm not actually 100% sure who it is, but nonetheless. Variety reported on this and said the exclusive release does not apply to customers who pre-ordered Metro on Steam or on other platforms, according to a fact released by Deep Silver. The upcoming expansion pass, which comes with the gold edition of the game, will still be coming to Steam. A release date has not yet been revealed for the expansion pass, though, but the FAQ, if you don't know what I'm saying, advise customers to expect an update after the full release on February 15th. In addition to those who pre-ordered the standard edition via Steam, will still be able to purchase the expansion pass and standalone DLC, blah, 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 blah. So it really is just basically, hey, it's time DLC, and it's going to be coming to Steam eventually around the time that the gold edition of the game releases. But it won't really matter because, of course, all those that are wanting to play the game day one on PC, which is going to be a fuck ton of people because it is a franchise that is mainly a PC-centric game. It was being shown off, for example, at PAX Australia last year. It was there showing off a lot of new tech just because it's really pretty and stuff, and a lot of people view it as a PC franchise. So a lot of people are obviously going to be giving the Epic Store their money, and in part, them more money going over to THQ and Deep Silver, whoever over there with the better split. So, yeah, what do you think about the ever continuing saga of Epic Games?
I mean, it's
what? I do wonder. As a side note, I do wonder. Answer this question in your answer. I do wonder. Do you reckon like they've gone to Epic or Epic has gone to them? Because I think we're now at the stage where people are just going to Epic.
Oh, I definitely get the impression that Epic went to them, especially as it's a game that's already been on the Steam store. People have already pre-ordered it. Why would Epic? I mean, it seems like a really ballsy move for Epic to go, hey, pull your game from the Steam store. Sure, you'll have to put it on there on that platform for a certain number of people if you don't want to cause outrage all over the internet. But then come over to our store and then sell it for $10 cheaper. Because that's the thing as well. They're selling it for $50 US, whereas it was like $60 US over on the Steam.
So they're selling it for less, but making more money off the overall profits of the sale. So
I guess so. I don't.
It works out better. It works out better for them. Yeah, I'd presume it works out better for them plus consumers. You know.
Yeah. Well, you'd imagine more people would pick it up at $50 than they would at $60. So,
which makes you wonder, in this kind of scenario, if the original price point of $60 is allowing for Steam's cut kind of thing, you know, like they're charging more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess this is for like the first huge thing, arguably. I mean, the other thing, I think it was like a week or two ago, Division 2 is coming exclusively on PC to the Epic Game Store. So that's two pretty big punches for especially because they're coming out in the next 3 to 6 months. So Epic is definitely building a pretty cool platform. And then it's not flooded yet, is the thing. You would have thought there'd be a bunch of indie games that are suddenly popping up on that store, but it's still pretty light on content.
There's not really much on there. They're slowly just creeping in. They didn't open the floodgates to like everyone just put your games here.
No, but they've got Fortnite, so they don't need to. They're not reliant on getting that income. They can curate and pick and choose what they want to have on the platform. So I know it's super interesting, I think. And then I mean, it's not only Steam who probably isn't getting, like someplace like GOG or something probably is, or Discord isn't going to be getting. You won't be able to buy Metro through any of those. Nobody seems to be too concerned. I think it's interesting the physical codes. Who's buying Metro physically? I
don't know. I've always presumed the only people who buy PC games physically still are like collector's edition things.
Yeah,
you know. I don't know why you'd buy a PC game physically because they don't have CDs anymore. You know, it's literally a case with a code.
Yeah. Do you reckon they printed out all the codes already, and now they have to do it? They have to empty all the boxes and put in Epic codes.
Nah, they'll just save them for. They just scribble them out. Tipex.
No, but they have to take them out of the boxes.
Oh, they have to shrink wrap everything again. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It'll survive. It's good. Yeah, I forgot about the Division thing actually because I didn't. I think that was when we was off.
Away.
Yeah, it was when we was off, and I didn't think it was big enough to like talk about last week as kind of a roundup. But with that, that one's going to be interesting because we'll find out that one the soonest, kind of like a big. Well, Metro's out before, but the Division is arguably a bigger game, I suppose. Like probably the biggest, potentially and closest thing that the Epic Store is going to have coming out exclusively on their store, and also a game that's a long-term service game, unlike the rest of them that we've seen announced so far, which have all just normal games, or however you want to word it, I guess. So it's going to be really interesting. Once again, I do love seeing the continuing saga of Steam basically getting fucked. It's great. And for example, because I've spoken about how I'm not a big fan of Steam for many reasons, and you kind of just cornered into having to use them because they rule the PC marketplace, and that's where everyone just puts their games, of course. But for example, I went to buy a game, an indie game the other week, and now what I'm doing whenever I'm buying an indie game is I'm checking itch.io to see if they sell it, and then I'm buying it off itch because 9 times out of 10, the developer on itch will just give you a Steam code as well as a way to play it on itch. So then I can support them directly for itch.
Yeah.
And then still be able to play it on Steam if I want to. So that's my advice on that front. If you would like to support developers a lot better, it'll only take an extra couple of minutes. If you're like, oh, this game looks really cool, just check if there's it's available on itch or another way to get the game, and then purchases that way. Because most of the time, developers know that most people do want to play their games on Steam because, of course, achievements, friend system, whatever it be, they will just give you a Steam code as well. So that's the hot tip of the day to support your local developers. All right, moving on. Bioware this past weekend had their VIP weekend demo, and I would like to tackle the word use of demo and get your thoughts on that in a hot second. But for Anthem, and I meant to dive into it for roughly like an hour. I had some issues that stopped me from playing it. I obviously could have pushed through them to continue trying to play it, but I was working all weekend, and I'm like, I don't really want to waste the little time I have before work, constantly rebooting the game and sitting and loading screens and, dealing with the things I was dealing with. So I did my time to get my rough impressions and then left it at that. One of the major problems I had, though, Bioware has already addressed in a post-VIP demo blog post they put up, because the main problem I was having was infinite load times, which was basically happening when you would try and launch into an actual mission, and it would just get stuck on load screen. And it happened, I'm not even exaggerating, it happened every single time I went into a mission. So every single time I went to a mission, I would wait for it to hang. It would get to like 95% loading. I would then have to quit the game, reboot it back up. It would say, oh, you was in a mission. Do you want to rejoin that? You'd be like, yes. It would load again, but it would actually go through this time. And it would happen every time. So that was you can easily understand how that would obviously get annoying. Yeah. Bioware also claims that there was, I say claims like they must be lying, but I mean, these stats are coming from them. We'll assume they're telling the truth. 9 million hours of play across the 2.5 days that the VIP demo was happening, and they're preparing for the upcoming open beta at the moment, which is going to be kicking off on February 1st, 2nd, depending on where you are in the world, obviously, to let more people into the game. Hopefully that goes a lot smoother, I guess, than the VIP demo, which was, of course, like all things are when they have events like these, plagued by issues, especially for the first 6 hours or so. Did you see anything about Anthem? I know a lot of people I follow on Twitter were posting about it and playing it and all these sorts of things. It was pretty much all over Twitter for the time it was on. Did you see anything? Look at anything? Yeah,
there was a lot on Twitter, just mostly people saying they were struggling to get any games and having, again, like the loading issue that you mentioned. And yeah, not the greatest look, but because that sort of drowned out any positive or critical feedback, at least that I could see. But I'm sure they've got, that's what these kind of things are for, to figure out these problems before they actually take your money for it.
What do you think of the word demo being used for this compared to a beta, though?
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. Demo seems to imply there's a set endpoint, where it sounded like it was sort of open-ended.
Yeah, there was like select story missions, but then it was still, you could just free play stuff with your squad and fuck around in certain sections as kind of as much as you want and grind up to. I think it was like level 15 was the max you could get during the demo or something. So yeah, in my mind, I'm like, demo. And they kind of dug themselves into a corner because a lot of people were saying,
it sounds
this
better
is a
than
demo.
VIP beta, I guess.
I suppose that's how I suppose that's the look that I was going for. Like, oh, it's a VIP demo, not beta. But yeah, they dug themselves into a corner because a lot of people, the complaints I was seeing on Twitter were people saying, this is a demo, not a beta. It should be working better, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, it's kind of hard not to bring it up every single time, but every time a game like this has a beta, every time a multiplayer game, specifically one like Anthem or Destiny or Division or whatever, has a beta, we run into the exact same complaints by people, which is that they expect it to be perfect out the gate. And look, for the little I know about programming this stuff, which is nothing and only what I've read from the developers' Twitters over the years and stuff, when they've explained these issues in the past, from Destiny to just general multiplayer games like Battlefield and whatever else, everyone just kind of assumes it's a thing where there's a box and it's like, how many people do you think will play your game? And then they're supposed to just input 1 million, 0.5. Oh, sure, that'll be fine. They press enter and that allows enough server capacity. But if you haven't heard this before, apparently kind of how it works is if you don't have enough allocation, obviously there's going to be issues, like people struggling to get in and such. If you allow too much and there's a lot of empty room, you're going to have longer load times, lag, these sorts of things. So it's kind of about getting that perfect middle ground there. And that's why most multiplayer games have these issues at the start, because the developers really don't know where the number needs to kind of be sitting. And that's why there's always issues. But for some reason, people think it's just, easy peasy.
Oh, yeah. Fortnite works fine. Why isn't it working? Why isn't every game doing the same?
Yeah. It makes me laugh, though, because it happens all the time with multiplayer games, obviously.
And they're surprised every single time.
They're surprised every time. I know, that's the thing. That every single time they're like, this is fucking bullshit, blah, 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 blah.
This thing that I haven't paid for is not working properly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose some of them are like, I've pre-ordered this, I'm going to cancel my pre-order, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, really? You're going to cancel your pre-order?
Sure, Nicholas Pryor.
Got him. But look, I don't say, I can't really say too much before I played. As I said, it was only about now. So I'll say this. Its gunplay is okay. If you don't know, Anthem is a third-person shooter, not a first-person shooter, which is, of course, kind of separates it. Everyone's still going to compare it to Destiny, kind of no matter what happens.
I thought you could go to first-person.
No. Oh, big old third-person shooter, getting around, shooting things in third-person. I mean, it's Bioware, so they do third-person shooters. It's a thing. They've got, and you can tell it's Bioware because there are a lot of elements in the combination of your superpowers and other, what do they call them? Titans? Fuck, I honestly can't remember the word. Whatever the word is that they refer to the suits that you wear, these big, powerful, like make you a Superman suit. Different ones have different abilities, obviously. So you can get the real big tough one, which is kind of your tough, take more damage, get a minigun, stand there, take one for the team. And there's obviously ones that deal more damage but are more nimble and have some different abilities. And you can tell it's Bioware because there's a combination of stuff where one person can kind of lay down a field, and let's just call it water, but it's not. But for example, one person could put down something that's kind of like water, and then another person can use something that's kind of like electricity and, shock all the enemies. So there is an emphasis on combination of different types of powers and abilities, which Mass Effect games have had previously. That's interesting. It looks cool. It looks pretty. I had some frame rate issues, not in the actual game, but in the hub area, which is where all your single player storyline is going to happen. So, and that's another thing that separates this game a lot from Destiny, is that the single player hub area where you're going to be talking to characters, and the characters I talked to all were full of character and interesting. I was like, I would like to actually get to know these characters some more because they had some funny lines and stuff. But that area is solely ever going to have you in it, and no other players ever going to come into it. So it's not like the Destiny 2 hub thing, which I can't remember the name of either. But in that area throughout the game, things will change. Yours will look differently. You'll get to make Bioware decisions, etc., etc., etc. But that's where I was having some frame rate issues. There was also no run button, but apparently the run button is being added into the actual full release of the game, so that's good. And the missions I did were okay. You know, they were your mission structure. That's just very simply go to point A, kill a bunch of enemies, go to point B. You got to wait for this objective to do something for like 2 minutes. So protect it, kill a bunch of enemies, go on. Would be a lot more fun if you was playing it with a full 4-person squad, which is how the game is designed to be played, because you cannot do, well, from what I saw, I don't know if it'll change or there's going to be some other choices being made, but from what I saw, you cannot do any of the missions solo, even if you wanted to. Like, it'll always matchmake you. Okay. So even if you don't have a team, so it means you technically can play Anthem by yourself. You don't need friends, but you can't choose to kind of push yourself through levels of other people. Doesn't mean you have to talk to them or communicate with them, anything like that, but it's always going to matchmake you up with other people. So that's an interesting choice, I guess. And the game is designed around co-op. Like, there's no PvP in it, at least yet. If they add that down the road, I don't know. But yeah, it is designed around co-op play and would be a lot more fun to play with people. However, I was playing it by myself, and the people I was playing with were, I don't know, doing a lot of what I was doing half the time, which was stopping randomly and then looking around at menus in the middle of a mission and then be like, what the fuck is that person doing? That was probably what I was doing a minute ago. I was just standing there because I was trying to work out the controls or do this. The last thing I'll say is also the jetpack system that's in the game feels really cool, feels really fun. So you can fly through areas, go up into the sky. It does time out eventually, obviously. It's not like you can do whatever you want, but it feels really cool to jetpack around the world, and you know, you can leap up into the air and then jetpack across a little bit and then hover above an enemy, shoot them a couple times, and then like do a power move down on top of their head, and all that felt really fun to do. So most of the stuff I saw on Twitter was positive reaction to the game too, but I'll put a parenthesis on that and say a lot of the people I was seeing it were Twitch streamers or, you know, content creators, hashtag or whatever, and they were all receiving the codes from EA, and there was a lot of EA retweeting. There was a lot of hand jobs going around, which I was becoming concerned with. But, well, I don't know. It's a whole different conversation, but like, there's not enough transparency for, look, because I definitely think there's a bigger difference between, say, EA gives me a code, right, for Anthem, and I review the game when it comes out, and at the end of my review, it, of course, would say I got the code, right?
Yep.
But I think there's a little bit different to that than, like, say, you're streaming the game and you're posting out Twitter clips that are basically promotion, especially pre-release, and they don't say, like, ad, and then EA's retweeting these Twitch streamers and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole...
That's just modern marketing,
I guess, but I just found it really interesting, particularly with this last Anthem demo thing, that the EA account was basically just retweeting Twitch streamers for 2.5 days straight, and that's all they did to promote it. You know, they just got free promotion by handing out demo codes. It was, I know that's somewhat an age, yes, but I do feel like there needs to be some sort of like, hey, just hashtag EA, you know what I mean? Just something that says, hey, EA did give me this code. I didn't pre-order the game to get the code. EA did give me the code. And I feel that should lie on EA when they're sending the codes out for people, hey, you want to stream this weekend? Just chuck a hashtag on that says this, you know, so everyone knows. That's all I'm saying. Especially pre-release.
I know.
There's a lot of it. Well, don't retweet them. I don't know. Anyway, it's a whole different thing, but yeah, Anthem. Got any questions?
Are you more or less likely to buy it?
Probably around the same, which was still
Are you gonna
confusion.
try again this weekend with the open beta?
It's a possibility. You gonna download it?
I downloaded it just to see, in case I wanted to try it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no reason not to really. It's just a open demo.
No, it's an open beta this weekend.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Damn. Yeah. All right. The last piece of news we got is Digital Trends has reported on a conversation Phil Spencer has had with one Major Nelson on his podcast about the future of Xbox and specifically their plans for 2019, which contained some interesting quotes, of which this is the big one. Now, Spencer said, this is going to be a fun E3 for us. We had a discussion internally. Should we go big? Should we save some money? No, we're going to do our thing, and we're going to go and be as big as E3 as we've ever been. So while Sony is sitting E3 out this year, and we currently don't know what they'll be doing come the rest of the year, or even what they're doing come around E3 period, it looks as if Microsoft will be doing their best to take the opportunity and go absolutely large, which is absolutely the right thing they should be doing. Gets me a little bit excited though, because it's like you've got old Philly boy over here speaking out loud about how big they're going to go at E3. And that just makes me, of course, think, or even if Sony's not at E3, you know, someone from Sony's reading this, you know, someone's passing along the word here and saying, hey, Xbox is apparently going to go mental at E3. And then even though Sony's not there, it just makes me hope that whatever they're doing, whatever their plans are, they're like, well, fuck, we've got to make that show a lot bigger now.
Yep.
Which means that even though we're not getting Sony at E3, we could potentially have two massive conferences nonetheless, even though they're not happening at E3 period.
I know. So they're going to set up 200 Xbox on the stage this year.
If they set up Xboxes and don't use them all again, I'm going to murder Phil Spencer. Is what I'm going to do.
Mm.
Absolutely nuts. They didn't use them at all, did they? Now that you
No, they used it once, like 4 of them, so they could play Forza. That was it.
They didn't, but not all of them.
No.
Because there was like 50.
Oh, there was heaps. They didn't use all of them, yeah. I remember specifically. Because we're saying they're going to bring everybody out and it was going to be Battle Royale.
Battle Royale, yeah.
Yeah.
Major letdown.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, imagine us.
Imagine. Let's move on to what we've been playing. Ash, there's only one thing that people want to hear us talk about that we've been playing.
Yep.
And that is, of course, the game that you said was never coming out, was full of shit.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I had 100% faith that it was coming out on the 29th of January 2019. Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
Oh my God. Yeah, all right. We're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit, obviously. We're going to go no spoilers, apart from what we can't kind of get around, I guess. So if you haven't played the game yet, or you want to not hear any spoilers, I would just say skip ahead a couple minutes, look in the show notes, see just skip to the next thing. But we're probably only going to talk about mild details, nothing story heavy.
No.
And try and focus on basically our overall thoughts, gameplay stuff, does it look pretty, these sorts of things. However, I will let you get away with bringing up what you just hinted at, because I don't think that's a massive big deal. But yes, do you want to explain what made you laugh? Did you actually laugh out loud?
Yeah, I certainly did. So they have I guess they've got like a prelude. They decided they're going to break it up, and there's like a prelude section. And then a title card comes up that says Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
You know why? Okay.
This explains the 2.8 thing, though. So
yes, it's because the 2.8 thing ends right before it says 2.9.
Okay.
Do you get it now, kind of?
I guess.
So the 2.8 thing, which was on the 2.8 HD blah final mix Dipsy collection, the 2.8 thing ends with Sora and everyone saying, hey, we're going to go do this thing. We're going to go to this place.
Oh, okay.
And then as they head off in Kingdom Hearts 3, it then comes up with 2.9.
Hilarious.
It's absolutely silly. And I too did laugh. I'll admit. I too did laugh because I was just like, oh my God, really? Because straight away I'm thinking people like you are just going to be like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not even into Kingdom Hearts 3 yet. But I'll also say it does, when you pass that section eventually, it does actually come up and say Kingdom Hearts 3. And you're like, well, I'm glad I've started the game. They should have made the trophy for that section just like, you've begun the adventure finally. They shouldn't have gave you it right at the start of the game because there is a trophy that says like you've begun your new adventure or something. They should have saved it for when it actually says Kingdom Hearts 3, not the 2.9 section. But that's a thing. Just be happy they didn't put out 2.9 as its own thing and postpone this for another year. And
I mean, they could have. They could have just chucked that level online for $20.
And I'll say this. Once again, no spoilers, of course. But there's a lot happening in this game, a lot of things, to the point that I'm like, I'm really happy this is all in the same game because I feel like you could have chucked these elements and story threads kind of in its own game if they wanted to, of course. Like, I'm not saying it needs to be because I'm like, oh, this game feels bloated. There's a lot of things happening and at times I'm like, this could have been its own thing if they really wanted to kind of split it up and push it into its own side project. So I'm glad that's not a thing that's happened. I think you're third than me though. Like how many worlds are you in?
I think we're about at the same point. We're both 3 worlds, right?
Yeah, you're rough. Yeah. All right, so how do we tackle this really? What is your, going into this though, what is your, how many Kingdom Hearts games did you play and did you do any research coming into it?
I played 2. I did no research. I watched the memory archive thing that they've got with the game.
Which they should have announced that was going to be a thing.
No, they
no one knew
did
about
on Twitter.
Not early enough.
Yeah. No, they were just giving other people the opportunity to make their videos and give them free press.
I suppose. If you don't know, there's a thing. This was only patched into the game day of release. So people have ahead of time didn't know. Like a lot of people didn't even know this was getting patched in. Early reviewers and such. But on day of release, they patched in a thing called Memory Archive, which is 5?
5 chapters.
5 chapters.
I don't know why why are you only watching one at a time?
I don't. Maybe you're like I don't know.
Clearly, it's just a creative choice.
It's like half an hour, isn't it? Roughly?
Yeah, 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
Some of them are long and some of them pretty, like, really short. But
yeah. And it's the catch you up. Here's the synopsis of everything that's happened.
Kind of.
Yeah. It doesn't go in as much depth as I feel like you kind of need, but it's better than nothing, I feel. And it's kind of nice that it's on there, I guess, as an option.
It gives you enough to... So when they do other info dumps, you understand what they're talking about.
Which they do. They actually do info dumps in the game at times. Yeah.
Only like 6 hours in. Most of that is them telling you
info
stuff.
Dumps. Yep. All right. So yeah, you watched all that, and how'd that go? Did you get to the end of that? And you're like, okay, I'm good. Let's go. New game.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I felt pretty confident. I'm like, I could spend another hour scouring the internet, or I can just jump in and see what happens. I mean, that's clearly Square Enix, since that's enough for me, knowledge for me to have to play this game. So
apparently. Yeah. And how do you think you're going story-wise then? Without spoilers, obviously. Just how do you think you're comprehending what's happening?
No, I think I'm getting most of what the story is. Obviously, there's probably minute details and like it's probably painted with a very broad brush so far, but I get the general gist of it's not that complicated. The general idea. Sora's fighting a certain person or organization.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
for all the shit, and as complicated as it looks, I think once you boil down the story, it's actually not as complicated as people make it out to be.
No.
I don't think. I think there are more complicated laws and systems out there, or as just complicated laws and systems out there with other sorts of things. So, and just as silly complicated systems and things. Because like I haven't played Dream Drop Distance, which to me is basically the third game in the franchise because it was on the 3DS and they called it Dream Drop Distance 3DS, and in my mind it's just Kingdom Hearts 3 if you take off the DS, and because that one was hell of important to the storyline. I didn't know this, of course, and I kept waiting for that game to go on sale because at the time I didn't have money and I didn't want to, and the money I had I didn't kind of want to spend on a 3DS game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
oh, it's a full price game. I'd rather spend it on console game or something. So I never bothered actually playing it, and I never saw it on sale ever. And then, of course, you find out later down the line that the game's very fucking important to the lore. But, you know, people on YouTube, they do a half-hour video to sum up the story of that game, and you're kind of good to go. But, yeah, so far, the thing, my note on the story about talking about it is that I'm finding it actually very easy to follow. And I think the reason is, and I hope this continues through to the end of the game, is that they're actually doing something that I wanted them to do, but I didn't think they would do, which is that they literally are just wrapping up the story. Like they're not adding elements, you know, like we're only roughly about 6 hours in ish or whatever we've said. But so far they are not adding in story elements. They are just story threads that have all already been introduced and they're moving on them. Whereas other games have always, you know, added stuff. And as much as I was hoping that this game would kind of wrap up the story, I didn't think they would do it nicely or pleasantly, and they would add in a bunch of stuff to make it even more complicated. But so far, it's just like, yeah, no, we're good. All the stuff they're adding is gameplay stuff or mechanics and stuff. So that's good. All right, let's talk about.
Hang on, I want to say they do throw a lot at you, like straight away, like a lot of new mechanics and stuff. The number of screens coming up telling you how to do something, it seems a little over the top. And then you get to certain worlds, and then they're introducing new game mechanics. They've thrown a lot into this. There's a bunch of other like mini games and stuff, all splattered through the game. But the most important thing I like about this is you get into the gameplay straight away, especially coming off freaking Kingdom Hearts 2, where you spent 3 hours before you actually hit anything. Yeah.
The game starts with a bang too, basically.
Yeah, it does.
Which is nice. I don't think I understand at the start it's kind of like mechanics, but I feel like if you've played any of the games before, you should be fine, especially if you've played 2 and Birth by Sleep, because the mechanics in this one are very much kind of the middle ground of 2 and its, what was it, Overdrive system? No, I can't even remember now, but whatever that system was, and Birth by Sleep's more customizable, changing, where you could change different weapons and stuff, which you can in this one, because you can have up to 3 keyblades equipped at one time, and you can change them just like pressing right on a D-pad, and it'll change what keyblade you're using. And, you know, one might be better for magic and have a different ability, and one might be better for defensive stats, so you can kind of change them up, and that adds a little bit to your strategy, I guess. But there's so many systems you could literally talk about it for half an hour. That's why I don't want to dive in too much. But I'll say that the game is just fun to look at because there are so many systems. There is, like, if you go back and you just look at where this franchise started, and it was a lot of just hitting attack, spell, attack. Like, there wasn't much happening. This game, every 3 to 4 fucking seconds, it feels, you are activating some special ability with your Keyblade, a spell, a team move, and then, of course, getting into the, what do they call them? The rides, or I guess?
The attractions, I'm not a fan of
attractions. Yeah, you're not a fan of the attractions.
Not all of them.
Okay. Well, for people who don't know, the attractions are things that Sora just kind of has at the start of the game somehow. It's like, okay. But he summons up so the first one you get is like a pirate ship. Then you get like teacup ones, one that lets you go into like first person using a like laser shooter gun thing. But
that one's good.
They're all ones you'll summon up. They'll last.
They're basically Disneyland rides.
Yep. And I think they're really fucking cool. Some of them are annoying and some of them are shit. Like, they'll come up and you won't use them because you're like, they're not good at the moment. But I don't think that's a negative. It just means they're not good for your current fighting,
I don't know,
situation. Like, which one are you hating?
The friggin' raft one.
Which one's that?
The water.
Is that the one that makes water?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that one. I don't like that one either. That's the only one I don't like. That's the only one I'm like.
The pirate ship isn't really that great.
The pirate ship is good once you realize you can actually move it with the left-hand long stick.
Yeah, I know, but...
Okay, before that, I was like, this thing's fucking useless, but yeah.
I don't know.
And then also, like, your weapons, each one has a basically a overdrive
Second
limit form. Second form. And they vary. So the first Keyblade's just like, oh, you'll do more damage, something like that, I think. Then the second one you get is turned into like a shield thing and has a final form that'll let you cast lightning down everywhere and these sorts of things. And the third one lets you shoot stuff all around the place, like spamming R2, like first person mode once again. Then there's even a system where you can hold R1 and like target a bunch of enemies and shoot them all. And then there's spells, and the fact that you spam spells, it'll build up a combo meter basically, and then it'll let you cast a grand spell. There is a fuck ton of systems in this game. A lot more than I thought it would actually be. And there's a lot. And
there's tutorials for each one of them as well. We need to put tutorials for each one of these.
You know, if you need them, you need them.
Yeah. I didn't even bother with the I don't know, what are they? The fly, like, you know,
I was about to
climb up stuff
and
then you can run or spin around them. I didn't even bother.
Yeah. So, in this game, there's a lot more maneuverability, I guess. Like a lot of the walls you can run up, you can fight how you want to, like take the battle away. But there's also stuff like, they basically introduce it to you by showing you these poles and being like, oh, if you jump into the air and then press square and directional button pointing at the pole, Sora will like spin around it and you press circle or square to come out of it in like an attack or a sprint or something like that. So it makes the combat a lot more maneuverable, and you can build that into combos and then chain that into switching your Keyblade and then chain that into doing a combo move of Donald and then chain that into a combo move of Goofy and then fucking turn into a giant pirate ship and then cast fire at motherfuckers. There's shit happening constantly. It is crazy. And it makes it really pretty to look at, I think. Like there's just so much happening. It is absolutely crazy. And I do think some of those rides look really, really great.
They do.
Even if you don't like them. They look really good on screen. And the overall presentation, I think, is probably the last thing. Game looks amazing. It is shocking. It's still 6 hours in shocking me that I'll be watching a cutscene and I'll get out of the cutscene, but nothing's changed. You know what I mean? Like the cutscenes and the gameplay, the game just look as good as one another. There are some more like highly animated, I guess, like CGI cutscenes, but they're more sparse. Yeah, so like for instance, the opening of the game, of course, with the song. There's I've seen one more since then, I think, only like in the same more CGI style, but they're a lot more sparse. And most of the cutscene stuff that you're seeing is just is in game.
Yeah,
like so, and it looks great because the game looks great. And whenever you're next to a bunch of Disney characters, and that's what I'm saying, I can't wait to get to a lot more of the Disney worlds because we've been saying this watching all the trailers throughout the years of just, holy shit, this looks better than the fucking animated film. And I'm going to be able to
compare.
Compare, wander around in the world. So, but I guess wrapping up, you got any last overall impression, thoughts? Are you having a good time?
No, I'm having a good time. I'm keen to power through and find out what's happening.
Well, they only added in the secret epilogue movie today.
Yeah, they did. I saw that. Update.
Did you see whose voice was apparently?
No.
I don't think it's it's not a spoiler. Fuck no. Get out of here. It's not a spoiler. But Matthew Mercer tweeted. He was like, I guess I can say I'm in the game now that's out, but you'll have to wait until the epilogue movie to be able to hear me. And I was like, motherfucker, you can't tweet that. That's so like, what?
Well, it's not really spoilery. I guess
it's not spoiler because he hasn't played a character before.
Yeah.
Like,
that was the other thing. Some of the voice acting, because they've used, obviously it's voices you're used to from the movies and stuff. They're not. Obviously,
they don't have the actors back.
Yeah. It's a little bit jarring. So that's the only thing.
It's hit or miss, but I don't feel like it's bad. It's just, you can tell it's not actually the.
But then there are some who is clearly they've got the right person, which is a little frustrating. So
can't win them all.
No, you can't.
Can't win them all. Some actors are a lot bigger. Your Tom Hankses and whoever, I guess. Tim Allen. These other newer Disney films. You got everyone from Frozen's back, I think.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a great time. I was really tempted to just like stay up every night and rush through it, but then I was like, I've waited very many years. There's probably no point in Like, I'm not going to take my time, like, I'll just do an hour a day because I'll make it last all year. I don't mean like
No,
that
because
lazily,
you don't
but
have time. That was the other thing. It's like all cutscenes.
Well, that too. I was nearly late to work because fucking an hour and a half before I could get to a save point. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
I think there is some autosaves, but I don't want to risk it.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk it either. I'm like, I don't want to sit for this hour of cutscenes again, but yeah, nonetheless. But yeah, I'm trying to not rush it, but at the same time, I'm not trying to make it last forever, but I'm not trying to stay up till 5 a.m. every morning for the sake of getting it through the storyline in a couple of days. But yeah, I think we'll do a review discussion in
spoiler-filled
review discussion in a couple weeks' time or whenever we get through it, finish it and see what's up and do whatever's necessary to get the secret epilogue movie, which I think is like get half the secret Mickey, what are they, the symbols or whatever. Yeah, you got to take the one of collectibles, you got to take pictures of little Mickey symbols on walls and stuff.
You have to look up a guide.
Yeah, just look up a guide, which is no different to previous games where they were like just symbols on the ground and you'd walk up to them and then press triangle or whatever and you'd activate them.
At least you don't have to backtrack. Well, you probably will have to backtrack.
But
that one other thing, I wish you could enlarge the map.
Mm-hmm. You go into the pause menu, it's like, where's the map? You can't. Yeah. Doesn't exist.
Especially like the first world, I'm like, there's diverging paths. I'm like, which path?
Yeah.
Can I go that doesn't advance the story?
Yeah. Old school gaming is you flip a coin and you go down one and then all of a sudden a cutscene kicks in. You're like, fuck. It's not what I wanted to happen.
No.
I knew there was a treasure chest down that other route. Or like playing Crash Bandicoot back in the day. Go through one route, get all the way to the end, see the end level thing and be like, motherfucker, then try and carefully come backwards through the screen because you want to replay the whole level. But yeah. All right, so that's Kingdom Hearts, and we'll talk about it again. Review discussion, spoiler field review discussion in a couple weeks. Join us for then. Otherwise, this is probably the last time we'll talk about it on Arcade Couch. Other than if, I don't know, big news happens, they announce DLC or something weird, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right, the other thing I played last week that I want to bring up quickly, just to basically plug a thing, I guess, is I played Bury Me My Love on Nintendo Switch, which was one of my top 10 games of 2017. I wasn't a big fan because I felt it ruins the experience and it takes away the main element that made me love the mobile game so much, which is the real-time interactions. Because on your phone, you will get, if the character is like, hey, I'm going to be gone for like 3 hours, they don't reply to you for 3 hours. And that was definitely part of what made the emotional attachment to the characters meaningful to me, because it actually built up tension, real world time tension with those characters. And that's why I like the game so much. The Nintendo Switch just makes the game very, very boring, I think. So I made a video. It's over on youtube.com/Explosion Network or on the show notes, of course. You should check it out. Talk about why you should definitely not play Bury My Love on the Switch and you should play it on your phone. And I don't even feel like I should say if you have a phone, because it's like, if you've got a Switch, you can play it on your phone. There's no way you have a Switch and you don't have a fucking phone. There's just impossible. That's not a thing. Don't even start.
Unless you're a child.
Fucking what 6-year-old child's like, Mum, can I have Bury Me My Love for the Nintendo Switch? It's about a Syrian refugee.
Wow, putting barriers on young children. They want to experience the real world. You just don't want to let them.
Oh, sure. The other thing I got on here that I played, and this isn't from the past week, and it's on here because I completely forgot to bring it up last week, but I did want to talk about it quickly, which was Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe Super Duper Edition. And I picked that up day one, and I played through it once as on the Mario game, not the Luigi game. And I got to be honest, I really didn't like it. I found it rather boring at times, and to the point where levels where I was struggling because I'll die a couple times, and because it wasn't fun to kind of beat the challenge, I would just be like, yeah, sure, switch me to the easy character, just get me through the fucking level, because I'll just get frustrated, and I'm like, but it's not, it was boring and frustrating at the same time, which means that if it's boring, like achieving and beating the challenge of beating the level wasn't going to do anything for me, which I found really odd. And I want to talk about it briefly because I haven't played a 2D Mario game for, I don't know, like quite some time, probably a GBA one or something, I suppose, or around that period, but a very long time. And of course, I've played lots of 2D platformers in the past, X amount of years. And even like the last year, Celeste, of course, was on my top 10 games of the year. Absolutely love Celeste. And I just don't think Mario holds up for me anymore. I don't know if it's the lack of interesting story motivation for what the characters are doing. I don't know if it's just because their worlds seem rather boring, because I think it wasn't until I got to like world 4 or 5 that I was like, oh, this is looking something new and interesting, because up until that point it was just your typical Mario shit. It was just like, pipes and flags and whatever else. And they're like, I'm probably just over this. I think I've discovered that 2D Mario's just, aren't doing anything for me anymore. It's not that Mario's not doing anything for me, because I absolutely loved Odyssey when that came out a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I'll take an Odyssey too. And I love both Super Mario Galaxies, both absolutely fantastic games. And I played both of those. But yeah, the first 2D Mario I've played in quite some time, and it was just dragged from the past. I don't know if it's more fun to play co-op with the full like 2 to 4 people, which you can, and that's how these games seem like they're designed to be played. But by myself, no thank you very much. So yeah, that got traded in towards Kingdom Hearts. Now, one thing we do need to talk about, Ash.
Yeah.
It's Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
And you may be like, why is he saying Ash? We've talked many times about how Ash doesn't play first-person shooters and he hates them. Well, I need to tell you all, listeners, dear listeners, Ashley Hobley has been kicking. He kicked the Call of Duty Black Ops week-long open periods ass, and now he's in.
Yeah.
He's a first-person shooter maniac. I was expecting to have to be like, oh, it's okay, Ash, like maybe, a couple of years from now you'll be able to get your first kill when you work out how to use these 2 sticks and do stuff. But
yeah.
He was Rambo over here. So yeah, do you want to explain your?
I think you're over exaggerating. But yeah, it was good fun. Obviously, squatting up with you and Dash Cultures, Dash and Buddy Watson. Mostly, I mean, though any multiplayer game is going to be good when it's playing with you guys. But I still don't think I'm very good. But yeah,
no one's good.
No one's good. Yeah, it's fun. I think I might pick it up and keep playing.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I mean, do you feel like he was just moseying around, or do you feel like he was actually enjoying it? Because it's also
I think I was enjoying it. I was having a good time.
It was your first Battle Royale too, wasn't it? Or
I played Fortnite.
Oh no, don't count that. It was your first non-Fortnite proper Battle Royale.
Yeah, sure.
It was your first Battle Royale where you don't need to build shit.
Yeah.
It
was really weird.
You're like,
I could really use some walls.
Yeah.
Some ramps.
Yeah, well, that's what you need to find the shield thing, and then you can put down a shield and build a ramp up, jump on that, and jump into a house. But yeah, good to see you've been enjoying first-person shooters. And we'll get you around. Next time a Battlefield releases or something, I'll be like, no bullshit now, Ash. Squad up with me. We'll do it. No excuses now.
All right.
You fucked yourself. Don't get yourself into a hole. The last game you want to talk about is one that I have recently just found out is the reason why trying to get your attention to start this show was completely sidetracked, and why it was completely sidetracked and I couldn't start the show Platinum Explosion early in the week either, because you was looking down at your fucking phone, which is Mini Metro. So what is Mini Metro?
So it's a 2016, 2015 game from a little New Zealand studio. Pretty much it's a minimalist railroad tycoon. It's pretty much it's just managing a bunch of train stations. You just sort of match them up, and then the train goes between the stations. They're different shapes, and then they get little tinier shaped passengers that get delivered. And yeah, it's really zen, and then it gets really panicky but it's fun. It's a really good mobile game, I think. Yeah, and there's like daily challenges and that sort of thing, and then I've only scratched the surface, but
I was about to ask, what was the reason you're desperately playing it right before we're about to start recording? Is it because of the daily challenges or something?
No, I just started one right before we started recording, and then
far out.
I've just noticed it right before. Yeah. Well, you usually take forever to get started, so
Jesus. Just getting my notes organized.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Why'd you pick it up in the first place?
I don't know. It just kept coming up as recommended on the Play Store, so I finally just paid the $1 something. I had some credit, so
yeah, I've seen it pop up. I thought about getting it, but I'm like, maybe another day. But yeah, I've seen it. Looks cool.
Yeah, it's very simple but very addictive. Clearly,
yep. Obviously, at this stage, yes, very obvious. Like how last week's mobile game was giraffes, and this week it's like trains. Let's move on to the main topic of the week, which is going to be talking about Metroid Prime 4. Nintendo has recently revealed that Metroid Prime 4 has been cancelled, kinda, as they hand over the reins to Retro Studios, who was the studio who worked on the original trilogy of Metroid Prime games. This news was posted in a video to Nintendo's official channel and received a lot of positive feedback for the transparency given from Nintendo. Now, what I kind of want to dive into, and the question I want to mainly get the input on here, is transparency in the video game industry, especially compared to the movie and TV industry, because I think there is a major difference with how things are kind of shown there. But what were your overall thoughts on kind of how Nintendo handled this news and went about it, instead of just putting out the video, sincerely coming across, just being like, we're sorry, but we realized we wasn't doing too well, which was apparently because they had like a bunch of studios or something working on it. Something along those lines. Like they was doing some weird project trying to make the game, but basically coming out being like, we're sorry, just so you know we announced it like a year ago, but it's still going to be some time off as we hand it over to Retro Studios.
I think they handled it pretty well. I mean, there was no obligation to tell anybody. I mean, it was only announced at E3, so like a year. No, like 6-7 months ago. And we all thought, nobody thought it was coming out this year or next year, so I think they could have gotten away with not mentioning anything and made it like they could, if they had to come up at one of their next directs and just had Metroid Prime 4 and then had the Retro Studios logo come up revealing that they're working on it, that would have got them just as much positive feedback. For them to say they've canned pretty much all the work they've done beforehand is interesting, but yeah, that's how they decided to go about it. Yeah.
So, yeah, you reckon they should have just they could have just kind of kept it secret and not bothered trying to explain to anyone what the dealio is here. Do you think though, because a lot of people had assumed like Bandai Namco or like all these other people were involved in it, and of course, because you know how the video game industry works, everyone like chit chats, rumors, speculation, blah 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 blah. Do you not think that like a year and a half from now, next 2019 E3, they just chuck Rare logo on it, that people wouldn't be like, wait, what the fuck's going on here? And then say someone like Jason Schreier discovers that there was this big switcheroo that was never made public. Do you think they would have then copped shit from it though? No.
If the game's good or the product's good in the end, I don't think it really matters how they get to. That's just how most industries work. I think things happen and things pivot, things change directions. Like people go in different ways, before the end product gets to you. So,
we'll put a pin in that. I'll say for Metroid itself, I'm not a big Metroid fan, so the news was kind of whatever to me personally. The news story was interesting, I thought, but the actual announcement itself wasn't doing all that much for me. But I do find it interesting that they didn't just give it to Rare in the first place.
Retro.
Sorry, Retro. I did give it to Rare too. Fuck it. Give it to Retro in the first place. And it did bring up another interesting topic, I thought, or point, which is that everyone just, they're like, hey, well, hold on. No, they didn't. In the video, they do say we're giving it to Rare, and also, I'll double check his name in a second as I finish this to clarify. No, the main person, because this is my point. Like when people say, hey, the studio's working on it, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like you're like, hey, Retro is working on this, and they did the original trilogy. But then what if everyone who worked on the original trilogy was no longer working at Retro? What does that actually mean? It means that basically a brand new studio is being given the reins with just a title. You know what I mean? But this is something the video game industry does a lot, where we're like, hey, insert studios working on this, insert studios working on this. And we associate studio names a lot higher than actual people's names, which I think compared to other industries is something that doesn't really happen, of course, because no one's like, oh, Warner Brothers is getting this film. That's great. Oh, DreamWorks is getting this film. You know what I mean? That's great. Everyone's like, oh, such and such is producing this film. Such and such is directing the film. Such and such is writing the film. I feel like we often talk about those three roles the most: writing, directing, and acting, producing. Actors kind of, if you're on the, actors to a point, depending on what the film is, I guess. But from the most part, it's who's writing it, who's producing it, who's directing it is the three check boxes. And the video game industry doesn't really do that, apart from your big names like, oh, Hideo Kojima's fucking remaking insert game, because it wouldn't then be his company in the headlines. It wouldn't be Kojima Productions is remaking this. It would be Hideo Kojima is remaking this, because he's such a prolific director. Neil Druckmann goes off, starts his new studio. If he was handed the reins to some game and was going to remake it, it wouldn't say Insert Studio is remaking this game. It would say Neil Druckmann is remaking insert game, because he's at a prolific state within the industry. But yeah, so what do you think about the fact that what do you think about that, the video games and movie industry?
I think that it is a given. I think there's no way that it's going to change. I think it's fair because video games is such a collaborative thing where hundreds of people are working on the same thing potentially, that it's not fair to give it all the creative credit to one person. The closest thing in movies and television that I can compare it to is animation. Obviously, when you think animation, you don't think Lee Unkrich or any other director. You think Pixar, you think Disney, you think DreamWorks, you think Blue Sky. So yeah, it's not surprising. Do I want it to move more in the other direction? I mean, it would be cool if mentioned who creative leads, what other projects they've been working on, just to keep people informed, or if you're giving a preview of a new release game, whether it's just do a little bit more background research, and then this is a media problem more than it is a devs
developer,
problem, I think. Yeah.
Publisher, yeah.
It's just how we're reporting it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, the person I was trying to think of before was Kensuke Tanabe, who is the person who was the producer on the previous 3 Prime games and is still at the same place and will be overseeing this new Metroid game. And I get what you're saying about there's 200 people, whatever. Anywhere from 4 people work on a game to anywhere from one game. One person, at that point, you can feel safe to just call out that one person.
Yeah.
But for anywhere from 2 people to fucking 200 people, 400 people, however many Rockstar didn't include in their credits, plus however many people were in the credits, a lot of people work on games, and I get it, but at the same time, I feel like it's better as an industry, would you rather us start calling out specific people than just blank studios, or do you think it's better just to continue calling out blank studios? And by that I mean, bring it back to the movie TV comparison. A lot of time we just credit a lot of the work to the director, I suppose. If a movie's really good, most of the time the credit's going to go to director and actor first. then probably writer, and then after that, it varies depending on what people really liked. Cinematographer, score, editing. You know what I mean? But most of the time, it's like, hey, this writer and director was really great, but we don't call out the hundreds of other people that work on the film and oversee the film, assistant editors, all the producers, the fucking person holding the lights, etc., etc., etc. There's all industries that have lots of people working behind the scenes, but I do feel like calling out the director to a degree is better than just saying insert movie studio did a great job here, because they are still kind of the headmaster of a class, I guess. You know what I mean? They're still the person. So to me, to bring it back to the video games, it would be it is kind of calling out the director of a project more so, So if you're like, oh, Insomniac Games is doing this, and they did a really great job with Spider-Man. So say Insomniac Games got given the license to do, what's another really Spider-Man like fucking property? I don't know. It's fucking
Batman.
What?
Batman, sure.
Let's not be silly. Let's say Superman. Say Insomniac Games is like, hey, we've got the license, we're doing a Superman game. And everyone is publishing articles saying, Insomniac's got the license to Superman. That's great. Look at how great a job they did on Spider-Man. I feel like my question these days, and I'm trying to be better about it, is to actually wonder who is on that team and who was there at the time they did Spider-Man. And the names I'm checking first and foremost are the lead directors, lead animators, lead writers, the lead art department. Depends, like just the lead people. And it's not trying to say that all other people don't matter, but it's still, if they're the lead person on a certain department, I do feel like they're the cornerstone of what kind of makes that certain section run well,
Yeah, and I do feel like we're sort of heading in that direction. Obviously, this year you've seen Cory Barlog become a huge name. Joseph Fares obviously made himself a big name, but you know who he is.
For developing, for yelling.
I mean, even Insomniac got Brian Intihar doing a bunch of interviews and that sort of stuff around the time Spider-Man was released. And then when they're promoting games, they're also saying from the creative director of Journey is got a new game. The lead designer on Metal Gear is doing a new game. They are using, sort of pointing out those sort of to give people a taste of what they should expect. They're sort of in the marketing as well. So I think we are sort of heading in that direction where these creatives in the video game space are becoming a bit more recognizable names. At least for us who are in the industry and know. Obviously, like, you look at Smash. Everybody talks about him all the time. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do 100% believe it's the it is the media's fault, and it continues to be the media's fault, and we can be a part of the problem, I believe, or not be part of the problem. And I'm trying to become better at not being the problem, but there are years and years and years of certain behavior, I guess, ingrained in my mind. And like any bad thing you can't help continue to do, it's really hard to get out of it. But it is still that thing of like, who's working on it? Insert developer. And I kind of want to stop doing that for games. I kind of, instead of just assuming the team is always going to be the same and associating the good work on game A by developer means good work on game B by developer. And then you look up and it's like, hold on, every lead person on that game that we're saying is going to be great now because they were great on this game has left that company. So like, which does happen when you look it up, and companies will still promote it that way, or media will still promote it that way. They'll be like, oh, insert developer is doing this game, and they'll promote it as, oh, that's really exciting because they did this other game. But you look it up and all those people aren't even on the project anymore. So especially with the way the video game industry works, which is that unless you're in a big company, say like Rockstar, where, certain people, the brothers up there hang around, and I'm sure they keep their few people around that they kind of like, I guess. They also just rotate the fuck out of people in and out of projects. That's how most of the game industry works. You know, people come on board for a game and then they will most likely leave and go to a different company for the next 5 years to work on a completely different product. So definitely feel like disassociation to actual people's names. It's the same as, for example, when I was, and I had a lot of problems when I was trying to do our best of 2018 stuff, for example, and I was looking up stuff that's not so prominent. It's like, okay, so we're giving Spider-Man an award for one of our positions in our top 5 best writing, games writing, right? Yeah. And you try and look up who wrote the game. It's not as easy as you think it would be. You know, there's no Wikipedia kind of listed one person. I was like, don't think this is right, because I'm pretty sure in the credits there's more than one person. And I look up somewhere else and they only had 2 names. I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right. And what ends up happening for all the games that I wanted to double check to make sure I was accrediting the right people was I ended up going onto YouTube and watching the credits for the games posted on YouTube where they actually listed the names. I'll also note as a thing that you're like, hey, but some studios actually do just credit the studio. Yeah, and that's fine. I don't think that's a problem. For example, when I was looking up Florence is just credited, like, written by Mountains, you know, like there's no, they credit it, they chose to credit it as a team effort, which is fine, because then you can just credit it as
that was their choice.
Team effort. Yeah, that was their choice. But I do feel like most of the time, and I know, what's her name? Celeste score, Lena Ray. Yes. I saw on her Twitter, she was posting something, I can't remember what it was for what exact awards, but she was annoyed that for the way the awards were listed, for whatever this was, fucking BAFTAs or something, I don't remember, but writers had their names, right? So God of War writers, Spider-Man writers, etc. And when it got down to the music scores, it just said the game.
Yeah.
And she was like, what the fuck? Like, why aren't you crediting people correctly for the work here? So it's definitely, I feel like, problem in the industry that has to change at some point. And hopefully sooner rather than later. Bring it back to transparency.
But it's hard. It's hard because on the other end of the spectrum, the people are working up to these positions. Whereas when you're an actor, you're just getting more acting jobs. You're doing the same thing all the time. It's just on a bigger scale.
I guess so, yeah.
And a director is just the same thing. I mean, it's not apples to apples.
I don't think it's apples to apples, but I just mean in general we should be doing a better job at actually using people's names for stuff instead of saying, right, for example, and this is something I need to get better with my games writing, with reviewing, for example. Insomniac, I'm using Insomniac as an example a lot here, but Insomniac did a really great job with the writing for Spider-Man because blah, 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 which is how you see a lot of people write their game reviews. They don't look up who actually wrote it and say such and such, such and such and such and such did a really good job with the fucking story for this game. You know what I mean? Like, just examples like that, is more what I mean. Simple things like that, I think, and just taking the time to credit people rather than the company could kind of go a long way, because it isn't apples to apples, you know, it's apples to oranges in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I still feel like people doing certain work deserve to be credited properly. But how do you feel? My other question for this whole thing was, how do you feel about the way that in the movie and TV industry, a lot of what they're working on is mostly not out in the open, but like people know about it, you know? Like stuff is announced because shareholders, like, it's really hard to keep a secret, obviously. For most things, you can't really film movies in secret these days. People will figure out what the fuck you're doing, unless you're 10 Cloverfield Lane and you switch the name at the last second or something. But that's a very kind of rare case scenario. That's not really how things happen. You know, we know Star Wars is being filmed. It's not a secret. They're over here. When the next set of Star Wars films, it's a secret up until the second they have to start casting people and signing contracts, because the second they have to start getting people signing contracts, that's the second stuff can start leaking. So they just go ahead and announce stuff, you know? Like, there was no big hoorah when Star Wars announced the Mandalorian TV show because they had to sign some contracts. So they just, blog post. Here you go. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It exists. Just here you go. And I feel like people are a lot better with calming the fuck down when it comes to movies and TV shows, especially when, say, a movie they can announce it and be like, hey, here's a general premise. And because they don't kind of film ahead of time a fake trailer, they don't film a trailer the day to announce it, whereas video games often are announced with trailers. And then 5 years later, when the actual game comes out, it looks nothing like that, because in the 5 years that it took them to make that game, they were like, this isn't working. And, if we have that makes this office system so hard. So then they take that element out, and then they add things and they remove things, over the period of time. And that's why we get to the day we are now, where games release and people are babies about them and cry, fucking the water looked bigger in Spider-Man, for example, from last year, of course, and all these sorts of issues that we have because people expect things and they see things. But in the movie industry, TV industry, because they can just announce things and people just like, a year later, 2 years later, whenever the fuck it comes out, 3 years later, 5 years later, like, okay, cool, here's a trailer. Well, parenthesis, they will announce certain things and people will get on Twitter and be like, they're remaking what? How dare they? Because this is fucking bullshit, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like when it comes to understanding the overall creative vision, people are a lot more understanding when it comes to movies and TV stuff. And the only kind of comparison I can make between games and movies when it comes to, it's a moving medium, because games is a lot more moving medium, and by that I do mean like taking elements out, putting other things in, changing gameplay stuff, changing the way something has to look, changing a character's design, changing a voice actor, etc., etc., etc. I saw this story early in the week about that Joker movie, and they were like, they were rewriting lines on the set, and most of the comments I saw and what I was looking at, people were like, yeah, that's pretty common. It's not a big deal.
Heard of ad-libbing?
Yeah.
Nearly every single comedy of the last decade has been doing it.
Yeah. Even some of the biggest movies with award-winning actors and stuff, most of the time you wouldn't even know. They just are still like retouching up scripts and script doctors there and whatever happening all the time. It's not really a big deal. And most people were just like, yeah, this isn't a story. This is go post this on some shitty fucking Screen Rant or some shitty fucking Twitter movie website, and you'll get some good clicks over there because that audience loves that shit. But for games, people don't accept it as much, They complain a lot. How do you think? Do you think having Nintendo like this, their transparency here? Do you think if other studios were more transparent throughout the development period about things that were happening, it would solve the issue?
I think it depends on the game. I don't. It's such a hard thing to say. Do you just go the Fallout 4 way and just don't announce anything until it's ready? Well, I mean, dev cycles are so long, and anything could happen. Things don't come together until very late that it's so hard to tell whether something's going to be the way you want it to be when you announce it 5 years out. And the other thing is, you've got so many projects that, especially in film and TV, are announced and never pan out, or just keep getting tossed around. This Uncharted movie, how many times has that been announced or changed directors? I feel like it's because we're asking this question because we've got a couple of stories in the last couple of years where things have fallen through. Obviously, all the Star Wars stuff. I don't think there's any problem. I think so much of gaming is built on hype and surprise. Like, people love to be. Obviously, E3 has been such a big event, and people just want to be shocked and awed, I guess. So they're just trained to that way.
Mm-hmm. Well,
on the other end, I would love for a bunch of more secrecy on films, on the film end.
We can't sometimes because, of course, people leak photos and whatever else. It's going to happen. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's like two spectrums, because if I don't think people should announce games and keep them secret until a lot closer, because I just think that's better for everyone. you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble because that's, if you announce it and you don't have long build-up periods, you're going to save the developers and publishers are going to save themselves a lot of shit in the following years. However, I do think if you're going to announce a game that's going to take several years before it's going to release, and you for whatever reason, be it someone who's got their money in the pie, hand in the pie, whatever, wants it to be announced early for stockholders or to gather hype for stockholders or these sorts of things to see how many people got interest for it, I guess, because that's the reason a lot of these things are announced early half the time is for people in boardrooms. I think if you're going to do that, then you kind of do have to go this Nintendo route of being a lot more transparent about, hey, giving people updates as much as a lot of people may get upset at times. Hey, I know it's been 6 months since we announced it. This is where we're at. Of course you don't need to spoil things, actually explain what you're doing, but just be like, hey, just keep people up to date. I feel like would make them a lot happier because a lot of times what happens is they'll announce something and they won't talk about it for like 3 years. 3-4 years. There's just dead silence. The example I brought up even last week, I think, was that fucking first person high sports whatever game from like the Burnout developers or whatever that was supposed to be that EA showed at their conference several years ago, and we haven't seen anything. I don't even know if it still exists.
Probably not.
It probably doesn't, but that's the thing. That's the I wouldn't get angry. I was excited for that. I thought it looked really cool. This is where it's like, hey, a year later from that, we had to scrap it. There was too many problems. Blah, 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 blah.
But Dylan, Rockstar's still going to come out with Agent, right? I don't know, yeah. I mean,
I do just...
you look at
I just feel,
Cyberpunk
2077.
Yeah. They announced that with no trailer. They just said what it was going to be. And that's been handled pretty well, I thought. Like, they haven't been showing stuff till they're ready pretty much in the home stretch. So, that's a good way to go about it. Or you look at Bethesda, and obviously with Elder Scrolls 6, they just showed a title card. Or with Starfield, they just showed a title card. They're working on it. I don't know if they're setting themselves up for failure or not, but...
Well, in my mind, the Elder Scrolls thing is because they're just afraid of leaks. So it's like, if we can at least announce it on our own terms, it's better than it getting leaked. Waking up one morning, Kotaku says, insider source says they're working on Elder Scrolls 6 compared to, here's our title card on our own terms at E3. So they announced that ahead of time. But now the problem is that everyone knows about it, of course. So now every single E3, people are going to be asking for it. Because, as you was just saying before, video games built on hype. So everyone now wants to get hyped up every single year. And they're going to be waiting for it and begging at it. Whereas I do feel like... this whole topic is basically what is the big difference between games and movie, TV industries. And like, even though they're not apples to apples and they are apples to oranges, kind of what can the games industry get from... the other industries, I guess. And I know they can't copy exactly how movies and TV announce and release stuff and all these sorts of things, but I definitely do feel like games industry has a struggle with because of how much longer it takes for them to produce games. It is the problem. So they kind of need to solve that problem somehow, I guess. But I definitely feel like there is a problem.
That's a problem. That's the solution.
Hey? This is a crunch. Yeah.
Crunch. Just work harder. Faster.
Yeah. No. Well, the problem relies on us, really. And by us, I mean the people that play games. It's not a problem of the people making them, really. We're just making it their problem to fix, I guess. But the fact does remain that I do definitely feel like the video game industry is a lot more aggressive and angry when it comes to reveal stuff than other industries. Compared to movies.
I don't know.
It's not going to get solved overnight, though, but I definitely do like how Nintendo handled this, and I like how everyone in the comments to the video and the tweets was just like, hey, this is sad, but, thanks for telling us. And I think that was like kind of telling to a point that although there's, of course, going to be a few random people that are still like, I was really looking forward to this game, fucking derp, derp, derp. You know, there's always going to be some of that. But from the most part, the reaction I saw to the Nintendo video kind of just said to me, hey, if developers want to be a bit more open to this, then video game players are more open to also reacting nicely to it and being open to just saying, yeah, thanks for that. I'm cool. Thank you. So we'll see what's going to happen in the future, I guess. Hopefully some good things.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to know if they're like extra careful because of the fallout from Star Fox. Like they don't want to kill another one of their franchises.
No. Yeah.
No.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the couch this week for a lovely, lovely just duo show. The first of hopefully not many.
So rare.
Just join us on this shit couch. Me and Ash alone. Look, we can't handle it. Make sure you check out explosionnetwork.com, of course, for all our other great shows, reviews, news, articles, and much more. Rate Arcade Couch on Apple Podcasts to help out the show, or simply share it on social media, retweet our tweet, something along those lines. That is the best way to help us out if you hate Apple like Nicholas does. You can follow Explosion Network on Twitter at ExplosionPod, of course, and join our Discord to chat along with us at explosionnetwork.com/Discord. You can follow me on Twitter at Vivaladil, VIVALADIL. You can follow Ash on Twitter at ASHLEYHOBLEY. Until next week, same time, same couch. Ashley Hobley.
More people, hopefully.
Hopefully, help us, please.